Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is the 2021 NPC Junior Nationals overall bodybuilding champion. Today's guest is Cole Eastvold. Cole, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
For sure. So Cole, we're just going to jump right into 4 questions that I like to ask all of my guests. I call them the warm-up questions. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have a specific routine or ritual you like to stick to on most mornings?
Yes, definitely a creature of habit. I do pretty much the same thing every morning. I get up fairly early just because with the family and kids, I like to get everything done before they wake up, such as like cardio or any of that other stuff. But so as soon as I get up, drink some water. I usually take all my fastest supplements like Yohimbine and everything because I'll be doing cardio right away. I'll do posing and check-ins on most mornings, but I am getting out of prep. So prep life and off-season life is a little different with some of that stuff. So usually once off-season starts, I can sleep in a little bit later. But then I have all my cardio in my garage. I go out, jump up. I usually go on the step mill or treadmill there. I'll do that, and then I eat the same breakfast every morning. So it's literally like every day is the same day, pretty much for the most part. But I feel like you have to have a specific routine, otherwise, especially with bodybuilding and getting all your food in and all that stuff, it's going to be hectic if you don't.
For sure. So just a couple pieces I want to pull out of the morning routine and your kind of just lifestyle that you live, the bodybuilding lifestyle. First of all, the breakfast, what is that generally consist of?
It's now steak, whole eggs, and cream of rice. That's cream of rice and oatmeal get flipped around just depending on how my appetite is. Because cream of rice obviously can digest a little quicker, oatmeal stay with you a little longer. But I also train right after meal one. So I typically will do the cream of rice just because I don't want to feel extremely full for training. But that is the breakfast every morning. The amounts may change from here or there.
Cool. Now, in regards to the training after meal one, because a lot of bodybuilders that from what I hear, and myself included, they usually like to get at least 2 meals in, if not 3 meals. There's usually it's like early afternoon, mid afternoon that they're training. Is your training just based around because of you're a family individual and you've just got a lot of responsibilities, or is that just when you like to train?
No, I mean, I would love to be able to just kind of wake up and leisurely, eat and maybe take a nap. Like that'd be like the ideal day. So I'm on vacation, I'll usually train a little later, like after meal 2 or 3. But on a day-to-day basis, if I do not train by 7:30 a.m., I do not get to train that day. So with the kids and with the full-time job, that's just, I got my time frame. I got 7:30 to about 9:30 a.m. That's my training window. So if I am lazy and I don't make it, I'm not getting to the gym that day, which never happens, FYI.
Right. Absolutely. Now, one other thing I want to touch on, then we'll transition to the second warm-up question here. I'm going back to your breakfast, and you just mentioned that you're kind of coming off of a prep. Now it sounds like the foods during prep stay the same in terms of your breakfast, but do you kind of find that the quantities kind of diminish as you get closer to the show, or is your breakfast kind of always the same macros and kind of the same makeup even within prep? And do you kind of just cut out the macros at later meals?
No, everything gets chopped eventually. Like my carbs, now this is the weight of the actual cream of rice, but it was down to about 60 grams, which is, I don't know, probably 30 carbohydrates. I just recently ramped that up to 80 grams, which is still 60 some carbohydrates or so. So it's not a ton. and that'll keep progressively getting ramped up. Now, the protein and the fats typically do stay the same. I mean, if you're having to pull protein to get in shape, you're probably in a bad spot during that prep. But it's mainly just the carbohydrates that come down, and they'll come down in every meal eventually.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So the second question here under the warm-up questions, Cole, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, or word?
We have a saying at our gym that me and my training partner Braden own, and that's everything's earned and nothing's given. So that's kind of what we stick by. Especially it pertains so much more to the actual bodybuilding or fitness, is you can't buy your physique, so you have to earn that. That's kind of how we came across that, and that's what we believe in. So you got to put the work in, otherwise you aren't getting there.
For sure. Now, you just mentioned your gym. Why don't you, because I see just like on your Instagram, on your social media, you have, I think, like a link to your gym and stuff. It looks like a pretty awesome gym. So why don't you just kind of give a shout out to your gym? Where is it located? What's the name of it? If somebody's in your area, if they want to start training there or check it out, where can people find your gym at, Cole?
It's we have a Instagram page. It's the_den 507. That's the area code. So people are wondering why we picked those numbers. But it is a privately ran gym. However, we do accept members, but it's more of you have to apply, just because we're trying to keep the atmosphere a certain way. And it's not that you have to be like a high-end competitor or anything like that, but you definitely have to have goals. It's not somewhere to sit on your cell phone and chat with your friends and take selfies. So we definitely don't allow that. It's for serious trainers, people want to see results, but we have people I have a 6-year-old kid that I'm helping get ready for a show right now. And we have people into their 50s and 60s there. So like, it's not it's a hardcore gym essentially, but for, it's not just the atmosphere that anyone can like from any age. But it's pretty sweet setup. We have a lot of good equipment too. So we have some prime pieces, we have some arsenal pieces, Cybex. So we're hand picking everything we want. We just have 2,000 square feet to work with at the moment. So, but we pretty much have everything done there. But if you want day passes or anything like that, just reach out to the Instagram page, or you can go to highgradephysiques.com, and there's a bunch of information about the den there. So you can check it out. We have people traveling from the cities, Wisconsin, just kind of tri-state area that just want to come and train. Potentially, we do posing sessions, one-on-one training sessions, all that other stuff there as well.
Cool. Awesome. And it's located in Minnesota, correct?
Yeah, it's Rochester, Minnesota. And it's located it's not too hard to find. It's right off the main highway.
All right, cool. Yeah. I just through your Instagram, it looks like it's a pretty cool gym. And I think it's kind of cool that you guys chose to take the route of it being more of a private gym, just to kind of keep that atmosphere. Because you see, I own a gym, but a lot of these global gyms, these bigger gyms, these corporate gyms, it just gets to the point where, like you said, you got the people that are literally sitting on a piece of equipment for 45 minutes and they're on their phone. And it's like, man, like some of us have lives that are super full, and we got to get our stuff done and get out. So I think that's a cool concept.
We needed to make an atmosphere so that we can all be successful. And
absolutely,
maybe down the road, if it goes that way, we can open it up to the public and make it larger. But we're still gonna have some pretty strict stances on stuff. So it's just one of those things. I've had people reach out, and I'm like, the gym's not for everyone. So there's definitely gyms in the area that we promote for other people to go to. It's just, we obviously can't house, we actually cut it off at 40 people anyway. So once we have 40 people signed up, they just go into a reserved list.
I think it's awesome, man. That's super cool. You gotta preserve culture some way. And I think in regards to a gym, that's a great way to go about it. This third question here, in terms of the warm-up questions, Cole, is there a book or podcast that has been especially impactful in your life? And if there's more than one, feel free to share. This can be, maybe a book from when you were younger, or it can be a book, current day. It can be bodybuilding related, just kind of however you want to take that. Is there a book or podcast that has been especially impactful in your life?
You know, at first, as I say, I don't really read, so books aren't my thing. But in college, I did have the Arnold Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, which I did read that thing front to cover. So that does have some meaning to me, just because that's kind of how I got started diving deeper into the bodybuilding realm. Obviously, when I was younger, I had Flex and MD's magazines, but that's not quite as detailed as that book was. So that had a lot of meaning. I do listen to a ton of podcasts, but as far as being impactful, is probably the bodybuilding bullocks when Luke was on there, just because of obviously him passing. Sad, sad as that is, it definitely made you realize what you had there. So I was like, oh wow, I didn't think I'd actually miss a podcast, missing someone, talk and stuff like that. So that had a little bit of impact as well.
For sure. Yeah. And everything that Fuad is doing right now in terms of
Yes,
all his podcasts, man, it's just really cool to see. Cause I personally feel like just in terms of bodybuilding and podcasting, like there's a lot of opportunities out there for people to kind of put some great content out there. But what Fuad is doing with all of his different podcasts, I know there's Bro Chat, and he does like more of interview style stuff. It's just awesome, man. Cause it's there's nothing else really like it out there. You know what I mean?
no, I really enjoy it, especially when you're doing hours of cardio a day. It's definitely nice to have something to just, I don't really like watching stuff per se. I get motion sickness on the treadmill. So I like just to be able to pop it in my ears and then just listen. And, his obviously you can do either with the YouTube, but if I can just sit there and listen to a couple guys chat about bodybuilding, keep me interested, it really makes cardio go by quicker.
For sure. No, that's awesome, man. All right. To wrap up our warm-up questions here, Cole, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
One piece of advice. Probably just not to say no to anything. Like when you're younger, sometimes anxiety or like the fear of doing stuff will prevent you from chasing something. I had a couple moments in life where I definitely took the easy route. Like I had an opportunity to go to California right out of high school and go train at Venice Beach and all that stuff. But I knew that wasn't going to make me money or a career. So yet again, it's like, so I played it safe and I went to a college where my brother was already going to. So sometimes thinking back, it's like, what would life be if you just kind of said F it and just went and did something? But everything turns out for a reason. So
For sure. For sure. So that's kind of a good segue into kind of the next part of the podcast here. Cole, I like to kind of get the backstory of all my guests. So if you don't mind sharing with myself and the 127 Fit podcast listeners, where did you grow up? What do those younger years look like? Just kind of talk about, were you involved in sports or other extracurricular activities? Do you have siblings? Kind of just touch on that a little bit, maybe work your way up to high school. Once we get to that point, we'll move on from there.
okay, yeah. So I was born and raised in a very small town, less than 1,000 people, Leroy, Minnesota. It's about an hour south of where I'm at right now, or maybe a little less. So I've kind of stayed in the same area for most of my life. But growing up in a small town is a lot different. I mean, going through school, I think I had about 20 kids in my class. That was it. So sports and all that stuff is a lot different. If you're in a bigger school, I feel like there's more opportunities to do more sports, whereas we were having a hard time just to fill a team. It was 9-man football, stuff like that. So not to skip too far ahead, but like that's for sports. I played basketball. I played football at one point. I mean, honestly, I think I tried every sport at least once, just to like try everything out. I played basketball the most, primarily because my brother did. We play one-on-one. So that's just what kind of stuck with me, even though I probably wasn't built the best for basketball. Was always a little shorter, a little stockier. And that's me staying at 5'10". I mean, because in the bodybuilding realm, that's tall. But for basketball, that's not very tall. So I did okay just because pure athleticism. but I didn't really like group sports as much because I did track one year and I actually really liked that. I just don't like running. So that's kind of a hitch there. But I did like how it's you versus everyone. You're in control. You don't have to have the other 4 people on the court, because you're kind of up to the weakest link. So I didn't really like that because, not to talk bad about anyone or anything like that. It's just, not everyone in a small school is very athletic. So losing is not something I like to do. So if I'm not going to be winning or I'm not going to be progressing at a rate that I want to, then I lose interest very quickly. So I didn't play sports throughout my whole entire career in high school. I quit about 10th grade. So 10th grade, but that's also when the whole bodybuilding thing started to transition. Like I said, I like to be able to be accountable for myself and for my actions, for what I do, to see progress. So going in the gym and training just naturally felt right. Quit all, like I said, I quit all the sports. I mainly just started training in the gym. Was reading the Flex and MD magazines. I had one friend in high school who was super into it too. So we would leave the small little town. We'd drive up to Rochester, train at the bigger gyms on the weekends. We got really into it. And I only have, I guess you brought it up, siblings. I only have the one other brother. So we had a small family. And like I said, to backtrack a little bit, we grew up in a small town, but it was a farm town. So I grew up baling hay, picking rock, that whole, works. Not everyone kind of knows what that's about, but we had physically demanding labor as kids. And then my dad also ran a tire shop. So I got to unload and stack tires a lot on the weekends or on the summers, so we stayed busy outside of other things there, just working. Farming is kind of a 24/7 thing. And you usually in small towns like that, you just call upon your family to come help out. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I grew up, farm town. Didn't play a ton of sports to the very end. And then I got bit by the bodybuilding bug right when I was getting into about 10th grade.
Awesome. Yeah. And I can relate. My hometown is in Northwest Iowa, and that's where I'm at currently. It's a little less than 5,000 people. So obviously bigger than yours, but I definitely understand kind of the farming community and kind of that Midwest mentality, right? It's a little bit different than some other places in our country, especially once you start getting into bigger cities. So that's cool. Cause I feel like, talking to different people, that's why I love kind of getting a little bit of the backstory of my guests. Cause like it really ties into who we are as adults today, those younger years, the childhood. So I appreciate you touching on that. Now, I want to kind of, since the strength training and the bodybuilding kind of started at such a young age, let's kind of just transition to that. Cause you also mentioned, which I would love to have you kind of share, kind of this opportunity you mentioned earlier about going out to Southern California and training at Venice Beach. Cause the truth is that like, I started training at a very young age, and like, I wanted to go to college out in Southern California. Cause like when you read Muscular Development and Flex and kind of the social media, the magazines were our social media. I think we're in a similar age. And it's like, that's all you saw was these jack dudes with good looking girls on the beaches in Southern California. So I can kind of relate to that. But so just touch on kind of getting bitten by the iron bug at a young age, let's just transition to that. But I do want you to kind of touch on what that opportunity was to go out to Southern California. And then you mentioned earlier, you kind of took the easy way and went to college. So let's just start talking about the bodybuilding at the young age. And we'll just move on from there.
Yeah. So like I said, I had one friend in high school who was, he actually had bought the Flex and MD magazines, and he had been bringing them to class. And like, I was always infatuated with being bigger. So that was like, the bodybuilding did actually not make me go to the gym and train. I started training at about 15 for sports and it was even regimented then. I remember getting up, having a protein shake, slamming a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, running out the door, being to the high school at like 5 or 6 a.m., You know, the sun was down, it was pitch dark. We go into the gym, we trained totally like bros. It was 3 upper body days a week. So I did that from the age of 15, 16. And then I was actually very young for my class. I graduated when I was 17. So, but when I got bit by the bodybuilding bug, I actually still didn't want to compete. It was just a matter of fact. I'm like, wow, these guys look like this. I'm like, I wouldn't mind looking like that. Like I said, always infatuated with being bigger. You know, that's just from like superheroes, a little bit of a comic book nerd. So definitely always wanted to be bigger. But then when I saw all that in the magazines, and I like, there was actually like workouts and there was food regimens, and now I'm like piecing this together, like, hey, like if I do this stuff, maybe I can start to, you know, make a physique like that. As before, when I was going in and just training and doing whatever, I really didn't have any structure other than what the other guy told me. So, but yeah, so then I started buying the magazines. I started reading them all. I started doing the workouts. I started trying to do the meal plans. But when you're a kid and you don't know how to cook, and I mean, my parents were more than supportive enough, but like they weren't going to cook me like 6 meals a day or anything like that. So, you know, I did a lot of protein shakes. I ate a lot of food in general. I was always able to push my body weight up, but I may have never like looked the best because I could get fat easy too. So, but I could push the body mass technically up, which you can't really complain about because some people doing this long enough, you see certain people who just can't gain weight. So I at least had the ability to gain weight, but then it was just the ability not to overeat, because I can definitely do that. At one point in high school, when I was full out, like as I said, after 10th grade, all I did was train. I trained in the morning. I trained after school. 5 days a week, I was training nonstop. I'd take the weekends off usually, or like I said, we would literally just get in the car or go up to the cities because the high school was closed on the weekends. And we go train at a bigger club up in Rochester, an hour away from us on the weekends. And that's like what we did for fun. So that just kind of led into, like I said, eventually competing, but I never wanted to compete in high school. I just wanted to train, eat, and be big. Competing was never on my radar. But that being said, seeing all that, like you had mentioned, all this takes place out in Venice. And like I said, I didn't want to compete, but like I definitely wanted to like learn from these guys. I wanted to get big. I wanted to look. And me and my one friend who I said who I've been training with, and his name's Matt. So I quit calling him that guy. But Matt and myself, we were thinking about moving out there, becoming personal trainers, like kind of like putting a plan together. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to be a personal trainer, to be honest. Like, so I was already having like ifs, ands, and buts. But yeah, I kind of just pulled the plug on that. Just didn't feel right. Like I said, I wish I was just at least went out there, did it for a few months or something, just because it would have been a great experience. But I ended up going to Bemidji, which is like 5 hours north, so we went the opposite direction. We went to the tundra, and then I did college up there. But I continued even by myself up there. I was very regimented. I ate meals, but like I think there's progression to this. So I ate 6 meals a day, but they weren't like chicken and rice and like thought out meals. It was kind of like literally I was taking tuna and peanut butter and putting it on bread. Got protein, got fats, got carbs. Just kind of like that diet. But there was always some chicken and rice or something in there, but I couldn't imagine at that point in my life actually putting meals in Tupperware and carrying them around. Like I did to a certain extent, but not like I do now. But yeah, so that's kind of where all that went to.
Awesome, man. So kind of after you just said, hey, you know what, like I'm not going to go out to Southern California, and you decided to go to college, what was kind of like your mindset? Because obviously you just got done saying you kept training and there was some sort of regimen with the eating and stuff like that, but what did you go to college for? What was your mindset like? Kind of what was like your life plan at that stage of your life, outside of just continuing to want to get big and lifting weights?
I kind of wanted to make money not doing anything in the fitness industry. So I actually went to school for computer science. said, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I play a lot of computer games. I've played a lot of World of Warcraft. I still do sometimes. The kids kind of put a damper on that. So I wanted to go with something in that realm. And but I got a super addictive personality. So the fact that I already put all this time and effort in and training and stuff in high school, that didn't leave. So I literally was transplanting myself to Bemidji, still eating, still training. Like I said, not at the level I am now, but definitely way higher than anyone I was around there. No one was training like I was. No one was eating like I was. I was friends with most of the football players just because they were the ones that were in the gym training and doing somewhat of something of that nature. I still partied a lot. I want to say I drank more in high school though than I actually did in college. But like, yeah, I definitely partied. I did a lot of that, but it was always like I was the guy that would go to the party, but also have a protein shake and oatmeal in my backpack. And like, so I would drink, and then I would try to drink, more conscious choices or whatever, like, but whatever, getting drunk. And then I would get my protein shake out, make my oatmeal in the microwave at the guy's party, wherever we're at, eat it, drink my protein shake, go back to partying. Like I still didn't want to miss meals, but eventually you have an epiphany. And it was like my second year in college where I was just like, this is stupid. I could look so much better if I didn't drink 3 times a week. But it definitely takes a moment to realize that.
Yeah, for sure. What was kind of like, mentioning the magazines and stuff like that. Who is kind of like, and I know you also said that you had the Arnold Schwarzenegger encyclopedia, which that's kind of funny. I actually have it like on the front desk of my gym for people just to look at, because it's an awesome resource. But outside of maybe like seeing Arnold because you had that encyclopedia, what were like some of those first bodybuilders like in the magazines that you remember seeing and just being like, dude, like that guy's physique is awesome, or you kind of like looked up to when you got those magazines?
So if the time frame is like 2000, like 5, I graduated in 07. It was like 08, 09 was college. So we're talking the Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman era. So obviously I'm Team Jay. I'm a blocky white dude. That's what I could kind of see myself like. I saw Ronnie Coleman. I'm like, well, that's an alien. That's not real. I can't do that. But Jay Cutler was probably my biggest influence growing up as far as a bodybuilder goes. And just more of some of the iconic people that I still like. They weren't big as competitors, but like, who doesn't like Frank McGrath and his veiny arm? Like, cause I was more like, I like the freaks. So just the fact that he had that one freaky body part, I was obsessed with that. I'm like, I want forearms like that. So like I said, I hadn't really gotten bit by the competing bug yet. I just wanted freakiness. I just wanted to be a freak. So Jay Cutler's overall size. And then, like I just remember really wanting like nasty forearms like Frank McGrath.
That's awesome, dude. Like, and I'm so glad I graduated high school in 06. So we're right around the same age. And I kind of like, that Jay Ronnie era. I don't think, in the near future, there's not going to be anything like it if ever again. It was just a special time in bodybuilding. But it's awesome that you brought up Frank McGrath, because dude, like, do you remember, I know you do, but like when you got the magazines, like you'd have the Animal Pack ads, right? And they were just like shut up and train, right? Like they were black and white, they were basic and simple, and they had their little promotional things at the bottom and stuff like that. But like, dude, like I just listened to a podcast that Frank McGrath was on here a week or two ago, and I put in the comments, I said, I don't think Frank realizes how much impact he had on young people like back in the early to mid 2000s in terms of like just like,
absolutely,
dude, those pictures for Animal Pack are like iconic, but he had such a big influence, I think, on so many young people at that time that were just like, dude, like I want to look like him. But Animal Pack overall back then, just like what they put in the magazines, it was just old school. It's hardcore. Like I'd go to animalpack.com and they'd have like the writings and stuff. Different people would be doing their writings, and it was just like, shut up and train, and like, just balls to the wall, hardcore. And it's just like, that, like, dude, I remember printing off like at high school and then at my parents' house when I was in high school, college, like I'd have like stacks of like Animal Pack articles from their website. You know what I mean? So I think it's so cool that you brought up Frank McGrath, because like, man, he just what he did through Animal Pack and kind of the whole aura around Animal Pack specifically was just, it was just special.
Oh,
So do you
I
recall
bought
that?
the Animal Pack.
Me too,
Frank was
dude.
the
Yep,
silhouette
yep.
on it, man. Of course, I was using the Animal Packs in college.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. So
Yeah, I
that's
remember.
super
I still
cool.
had the photo of it. I think it was him, Evan Centopani, and I think it was Frank Hauser walking into the gym. It's like one of the most iconic photos ever. I highly related with anything Animal did with those guys. That was just like, from a small town, more, regardless. I feel like if you're from a small town, you relate more to the hardcore stuff. And I definitely did. So that was some of my favorite memories, was just seeing, anything from Animal, that hardcore feeling just made me feel right at home.
For sure, man. And that's cool. It's and I'm sure there's going to be people that are listening to this that are nodding their heads up and down in agreement, because if you're around our age or you got into bodybuilding around the early 2000, mid 2000, it's definitely Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, and then Animal Pack, Frank McGrath. It's good stuff. The Animal Cage at the Arnold Classic, that's legendary too. So all right, so let's just talk about then. So you're in college, you graduate. Did you just kind of like get like a job or enter into like a career that you got your degree in? If so, kind of what did that look like? And then let's just really start talking about when you decided like, hey, I want to start competing, and let's just transition from there.
So a year into college, I'm doing well. I was on the dean's list. To be honest, I'm not someone who had to try a whole lot of effort into academics to pull off a B. I could do the bare minimum. I didn't go to class very often. I got the highlights. I have a very good memory when it comes to like, if I hear something, I can typically remember it. If I read through it a few times, I can memorize it. So that just helped me kind of squeeze by. But then I got into calculus for computer science, and I'm like, F this. I'm like, I don't even know if I really want to do this. So I'm not going to put myself through this, because math is something where I'm just not good at. So I actually switched to exercise science, because that's the only thing I knew. I did 2 years, and then I actually dropped out of college. Didn't finish the 4 year, because it was a 4 year degree. So technically, I could have I had enough credits for a bachelor. It's just that school didn't offer a bachelor. So I could have transferred out, did a couple classes, got a bachelor's, and had something in my hand. However, I came back, I can't remember if it was a Christmas break or a summer break. Either way, I came back, and then I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to be done with this, because I kind of felt like, far as exercise science degree went, no offense to anyone that has one, I didn't really see where it led to, that I couldn't get there without the degree. So I went and just got a job as a personal trainer, make sure I even liked what I was doing. I did personal training in Rochester. And so my brother's a little bit older than me. So when I quit college, he actually graduated. So we moved in together into a house in Rochester. And I got a job as a personal trainer. It actually went well. I just don't like training the general public. Nothing against them. It's just I can only take so many excuses, and I'm so dedicated. And that's not like to toot my own horn, but it's just that's something I can do. It's like a trait that's embedded in me. I don't miss meals. I don't miss workouts. I don't have excuses. It's just I guess you get kind of stuck in your ways. Like, everyone should be that way. Like, if you want this, do it. So I'm not very good at motivating the general public, because it's pretty much, hey, if you want this, do it. If you don't, then fine. Just be real with yourself. Go do whatever you want to do then. Like, I'm not going to sit here and beg you to come do a workout. So that didn't go over extremely well, but I did do it for 2 years. And then I got a job selling exercise equipment for a company called Second Wind, which a lot of people may have heard of that. So I sold equipment for them for almost 4 years. And it was kind of nice, because the money was way better, because you're in sales. So there's commissions, there's bonuses, but at the same time, I'm selling them a treadmill, I'm selling them a exercise machine. So I still get to like help people with fitness. Well, they're dropping $2,000. They're actually a little more serious than the person spending like $100 for an hour with a personal trainer. Like they're going to put that in their house. But then also after they got the equipment in their house, I technically never had to see them again. So if they didn't do it, I didn't have to deal with any backlash. So that was nice. But I started then doing some nutrition for like, clients and some of this, because at this point, I competed in my first show in 2010. And when I got bit by the competing bug, I guess you would call it, because I always kind of lived a lifestyle from 15 on going forward. I was 19 and we went out to the Arnold Classic, and I actually got to see all the guys. I got to see them compete. I got to kind of like see what they do. I got to meet Jay at the booth. I think Phil was there, but he was like with MetaX. He was actually competing in 09, I think, at the Arnold. I think that's also the year that Rolly Winkler on the amateur got his pro card. So like, it was a really, like, now looking back, awesome show to be at, because Kai beat Phil and Rolly got his pro card. It's like two like kind of like big moments there, but that's just me fanboying back. But anyways, when I was out there, I was kind of like, wow, this is pretty cool. My friend then is like, I'm going to compete. And this is the same friend from high school. Like we kept together. We went to the Arnold. I think we went to the Arnold like 3 times total. But it was just that year, I remember in 09, like, if he's going to compete, fuck it, I can do it. I can compete. So we actually started prepping for a show together, and he pulled out. I went forward. It was the 2010 North Star. I just turned 20, and I got 4 out of 5. I didn't do very well. At the time, I thought I looked decent, but like, you see the pictures and like, wow, that wasn't very good. But like, you could tell, like, there was some there. I was lean, but not like how lean I should have been. I was missing. So I wasn't like genetically gifted. I wasn't the guy who showed up to a show and like, oh, I won the overall and then I won this. But to be honest, I've never really failed at a whole lot up to this point, only being 20. So when I did that and I didn't win, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, all right. It made me actually want to push harder and see what I can do, because I also at that point knew I wasn't doing everything in my ability to win. And then that's where I said it's a single sport, or if you want to call it a sport, but it's just me. It's all relying on me. So I'm like, I know I can do better. So stubbornness, like I said, I have a very addictive personality. So when I'm in, I'm in. So all of a sudden after that show, I was willing to just about do anything, just whatever I had to eat, however I had to train, all the whole works. I didn't necessarily get that much better, but my progress super slow is what I found out. I can never miss meals, never miss training. I never had one off season where I just like blew up, but every year I consistently put on about 5 to 10 pounds of stage weight. And then I'd stall a year or two, but I would look better. I honestly think I probably competed too much, did less shows, took more time to grow since I was so slow at growing, like actual tissue. I mean, I could put on body weight, but I just get fat and sloppy in the off season. So, but yeah, so then that all led up to me actually starting to compete. And that kind of, like I said, going to the Arnold, that was kind of the igniting moment. So to be honest, since then, it's just been a grind. From there, you always meet those people, though, that will take you to the next level. So I eventually hooked up with a coach that was near me, and he kind of took me under my wing. He took me under his wing. And then that was kind of the turning moment for me, where I went from a mediocre kid competing. I did like 3 shows. I got a 4th out of 5. I got like a 10th out of whatever. And then I got actually it was like 3rd out of like 15. And then after that show was when he jumped in, because finally I had someone like, oh, like, he might have potential. So I had someone jump in and help me. And then from there, I was able to finally win some class overalls, 3 overalls now completely. Obviously, that's jumping ahead quite a bit, but I won my first overall with him in 2015. And then, like I said, there's levels. So then there's obviously going to the next coach, and the next coach who knew a little bit more.
For sure. So what do you think is the driving force internally for you, Cole, to just continue pursuing whatever you're pursuing within bodybuilding, and within that, like, what is the ultimate pursuit for you?
So that's changed over time too. So we haven't touched on it too much, but I have a wife. We've been married for a long time now. And then but before all that, I started competing. I've always actually been with her. We started dating, oh man, it would have been my senior year. Her, and she's older than me, so she was in college. We've been dating since then. Don't make me do the math. That's a lot of years. Because now I'm 32. So, but when I first started, it was more just because I wanted to prove to myself that I can win. My goal was to win Mr. Minnesota. I was like, I can prove myself. I can win Mr. Minnesota, get the title. Back then, the Mr. Minnesota title had a little bit more meaning, at least to me. I feel like some of the state titles has gotten watered down just because of the amount of competitors, and you'll have a light year where someone will get it and obviously didn't deserve it. You can't control who shows up though. So obviously won't fault them at any point. It just seemed like when I was competing in 2010 and whatnot, there's 15 guys per class, and it was very deep lineups, which now you'd be lucky to get 2 super heavies in a class. But so anyways, the driving factor at that point, honestly, was just to be better. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be better. I was very stubborn. I knew I could win. I finally did win the Mr. Minnesota in 2017. I actually won my first overall though in Wisconsin in 2015. But then after, like I said, stuff changes. After I had kids, I kind of wanted to make it sure it was more like that they're proud of me. I can do something, and going to work and just making money and coming back, that's great. But like now I'm stubborn, I'm bit by this bug, but I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, they better be proud of me. I better start doing well, like more than just winning a state show, even though that was like, it was still a highlight. Winning the Mr. Minnesota in 17 to me was like, wow, I wanted to win this. And the fact that I achieved that, and at that point, I had my 2 sons already, and they got to see it and they got to be there. Very rewarding, very satisfying. I know for like people who get their pro first year, they're kind of like probably scoffing at that. But like I said, I progressed very slow, but yet progressing. So now we're getting into, I did the 2016 USAs. I got my butt kicked when I tried to go to the higher level. I did the 2018 Nationals, same thing. And then that's when 16, I was like, you know what? Let's take some time off. I'm gonna take a full year off. Maybe even COVID happened, so I actually took 2.5 years off. Probably the smartest decision I ever made. But then that put me in a very good setup for this year. Now I have 3 kids. So I have a daughter as well. So something with having a daughter, I don't know what it is. You have a little girl, you're like, man, I really just want her to be proud of me. So that was definitely, like when I'm doing cardio and stuff, my mindset's a little different. Before it was just like I was just focusing on the competitors. Now there's some of that, but also just like, man, I don't want to go to a show and have them see me lose or anything like that. Especially because my oldest is 7 now, and he gets it. He gets winning, he gets competing, like he's understanding this. He's asking questions, so it's really cool. So it's definitely a better driving force than just wanting to be better than you were before. That has a lot more meaning. So when you are tired, you are hungry, I can just kind of think, my God, like I do not want to let any of these down. Even my family, because my mom's super supportive. She's been to every show. I think I've done over 10 shows now since 2010. She's been at every show. My wife's been at every show. So all that adds up. Now it's more about family and proving that I can do it for myself as well, just because I have been doing it so long. So I know I'm rambling, but the end goal is now, after winning the 2021 NPC Junior Nationals, This is the first time ever I've seen my pictures. I saw how I looked, and I went, you know what? I think I may actually be able to get that elusive pro card. Now, Dusty Hanshaw was my trainer for about 5 years prior to now. And he instilled in me, though, not to chase the pro card. So I've never really had that mindset. Chase a pro physique and the pro card will come. Because if you don't have the pro physique, what does the pro card do for you anyways? That means you slid into a show, you got it, and you still can't compete as a pro. So that being said, I am working with Matt Jansen now. I'm sure a lot of people have heard what happened with Dusty, so that was why there was a change. And then with all the success that me and Matt had, I decided to stay with Matt at this time just because I feel like that's a smart decision. But also, me and Dusty had a long conversation about it as well. So it's definitely, I want his respect and Matt's respect. And it was a touchy subject, but we got all that figured out. So I'm sticking with Matt for now. We're going to do a full off season together. And like I said, now I have some belief in myself. Because to be honest, I didn't have a ton of belief. I've lost a lot. So me being arrogant or thinking I'm a really good bodybuilder has gone out the window a long time ago. I'm just trying to be like the best mediocre bodybuilder I can be. So, but after that showing, Matt pretty much said, hey, let's take a year. And I think we can do this. So I was like, you know what? I do not want to just do a show to do a show anymore, because I could easily go jump into USA's, probably get top 5. Will I win? Who knows? But if I take a year and we plan this right, and so, I mean, prep starts now. Like, I'm not like, no more messing around in the off season. It's prep now. Obviously, I'll be a little bit happier with more food in my belly, but still doing fasted cardio, still eating a lot less than normal as of right now. We're in the reverse dieting stage. But the 2022 USA's is on the calendar. We're getting ready for that. Like I said, this is the first time ever I've had a very clear mindset that I have the ability to win that show, because not so much because I won junior nationals, but seeing the physique that I brought to junior nationals, going back to bringing a pro physique, and the comments, not just from random people, but people who I truly respect in the industry, giving me their feedback based off that showing. And there's like, you bring that conditioning and you continue to get bigger. It's just a matter of time now. So like I said, we're going to take the time, we're going to build that pro physique, and we're going to come back and do some national shows next year. And hopefully, like I said, I want to win. That's always the goal, but more in my mindset is to be able to bring that package that I can see in my head to the stage.
Perfect. Now, I really want you to kind of, you've brought it up several times as you just kind of unpacked your competition history there. But I kind of want you to speak about, because obviously you talked about, you went and started being a personal trainer after you decided college wasn't for you or whatever. And then you worked for Second Wind, which I'm very familiar with them. I know they have a location in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I went to college. But then, my point here that I want you to kind of touch on, Cole, is you talk about kind of like there's this long game and you progress slowly. And I think because of social media, we see all the highlights, right? Especially when it comes to fitness people and bodybuilders, we see the wins, we see the constant progress pictures and all this different stuff. And we see all these highlights, but the reality is there's few people, like you kind of mentioned earlier, that just step on stage, they win their first show, they win their second show, and then they're a pro, right? Like it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I want you to touch on that specifically, but I also want you to touch on like the reality of life, because the majority of people that are, that love bodybuilding, that live the bodybuilding lifestyle, that are maybe, now pursuing a pro card, like the reality is most of those people are not getting paid, within the fitness industry or from bodybuilding. Like you have your family responsibility. There's, you have to work a full-time job to pay the bills, to take care of your family. So just talk about the realities of like, because I know we see all the highlights. We see these people, these Instagram influencers, social media influencers, And then we see some of the bodybuilders that are, we know they're making money through different means or whatever, through social media or contracts, stuff like that. But speak on the reality of the long game, and then also the grind of, having to work a full-time job, to pay the bills and to actually compete in bodybuilding.
Yeah. So, I mean, if people are listening to this and don't know, yeah, like me personally, I'm making no money off bodybuilding currently. I do have sponsors, so I get like free stuff, and I do get some commissions and whatnot, but it doesn't add up to a paycheck that I can live off of. But yeah, so like I don't have to buy certain clothing, I don't have to buy supplements, so it takes some ease off, and then sometimes I'll help with some of the contest stuff. But my day-to-day life is, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but my job for the last 7 years has been running the fitness shop in Rochester, Minnesota, which we sell exercise equipment, we service equipment, we deliver equipment. And then we have a full side where we do all the supplements. We have all the major brands. That's kind of my baby. That's kind of like my part of the business that I run 100% myself. So I'm proud of that. It's something I've built over the years here in Rochester, but it kind of goes together with the gym and the shop, and it's all fitness related. So like, you need something fitness related, you come see me. Kind of got my own little thing niched out here. So shout out to the fitness shop. The owner, Adam, brought me in like 7 years ago, and I've built up my rank there. And he's been very supportive of the bodybuilding as well. Obviously I got to take time off. End of prep, I'm not very happy, but whatever, he puts up with me. But the reality is, I have to, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, is I have those 2 hours to train. If I don't do that, I don't get to train, because I do have to work a full-time job. I have to be there by about 9:45 to open the store. I can be there now that I am the manager and we have some other people working in the store. I have a little more leniency, which is nice because of the family. So I can go home early some days, but typically I'm there 8 hours, 7 hours a day. I get one day off during the week. Weekends in the winters, I don't get off at all. I typically work every weekend because we're so busy. Summers times when we get to take a little bit more time off. But so you have to be so prepared if you want to be a full-time bodybuilder and have a full-time job. It's ridiculous. Everything has to be cooked the night before. Everything has to be put in containers the night before. All my supplements are laid out the night before. And that's why I kind of, like at the beginning, also went into why the regimen is so important. If you're not being paid to just eat and train, which is like less than 1% of people. So just kind of reality check, go to school, get a job, set yourself up financially, and then that way you can actually support yourself for bodybuilding. Now, you don't have to compete to be a bodybuilder. I know plenty of people in the area who just love the lifestyle. They have competed and they stopped competing, but they eat, they train, they pack their meals, they do everything. But same thing, they're not making any money off of it, but they enjoy the lifestyle, so they're doing it. So it is a choice. But being a full-time parent, being a full-time employee, being a full-time bodybuilder, it is very hard. Wearing 3 massive hats there that take up a ton of time. Time management is everything, and then also just having some give and take. Off season, I try to be a little bit more lenient. So if the family wants to go out to eat, go out. But like, if I'm not supposed to have a free meal that night, I can get a steak, I can get potatoes, I can get stuff on the menu, that isn't going to kill my diet. When I'm in prep, I still go out with them all the time. I would say the last 4 weeks, I probably start getting a little hangry, and then I maybe stay home more often. But for the majority of the part, like, I'm packing up my Tupperware, we're going to family events. If you are a single person, I'm sure it's a hell of a lot easier being a bodybuilder and working a full-time job. But you throw kids in the mix, you can't be selfish. Like tomorrow, I'm training legs in the morning, going an hour to go camping with them. They've been camping all weekend. I've been at work and doing other things, so I couldn't go these last 2 days. But tomorrow I'm gonna go there for the 4th, hang out with them at the campground, and then drive an hour back, because then I still have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning the next day. But like, yeah, could I just stay home and nap and rest and be a bodybuilder full time? Sure, I could, but I'd also probably lose my family pretty quick, and my kids would be awfully disappointed in me. So, yeah, hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, for sure. And just the other part I want the listeners to hear from you, Cole, is just kind of like the long game aspect of things. Because again, you mentioned a couple of times like you're kind of a slow progressor, but how important is it? And I want you to kind of touch on, again, you talked about Dusty Hanshaw and kind of that mentality of like, hey, focus on building a pro physique and not pursuing or chasing after a pro card.
Yeah.
Just talk about that mentality, especially for some of the young people that are they saw your pictures on from the junior nationals, and just some awesome shots. You look so good, man. But these young people are going to see your pictures on Instagram and other people's pictures on Instagram and be like, oh, like, dude, like, I just got to take these drugs, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. And it's going to happen. But
yeah,
that's not the reality. So just touch on that. Speak to maybe some of those younger people that like are maybe a little delusional because of social media.
Yeah. And so with running the store and selling supplements, I run into this a lot. And it's towing that fine line of not discouraging kids, because in reality, it's like, you want to be a competitive bodybuilder, you're not sure if you know what it has. Like, you're not, like, some people obviously can just tell they're genetic freaks. Like, they've never picked up a weight in their life and they're already like round and bubbly and got abs. And sure, you're probably going to do great, man. Just start competing. You're going to do great. But for the people like myself that were a little bit blockier, a little, got fat easier, do you have 10 years to really see what your physique looks like? Because to be honest, that's probably what it's going to take if you're not genetically gifted out the box. And genetics, I guess I don't like to use as a comp out, because you really don't know till you try. So, but also you don't know how fast you're going to progress. So for me, I started training when I was 15, but I started competing when I was in 2010. So I have 15 plus years of training, and then I've been competing for 11 years. And it took me 11 years of competing to finally get to the junior national look. That's how long it took me. Could I have done it quicker? Maybe. I don't know how, just because, unless you can get hooked up with the top tier coach right away, and maybe then they could expedite that. But like, for me, living in a small town, not knowing a whole lot, I worked with a local guy, and then that local guy got me to the nationals, and that took a long time. And then I met Dusty out there, and then he was the one who kind of put the mass on me. And then now I'm working with Matt, which he's been really good at refining the mass. So like, for me, it's just taking longer. Like, say, can you do it quicker? Maybe. But if you're not a hard gainer, I mean, I think, to kind of put this perspective, if you wake up one morning, you go, I want to compete, but you've never trained a day in your life, you already have the wrong mentality. There's something wrong there. It seems to be happening more days now with social media, because people can see like, oh, wow, look at him. He competes. I want to compete. But I fell in love with training first. And then I started realizing how much nutrition could help that training. And competing came way after. We're talking 5 years, 6 years later. So, and I get it, times change and whatnot, but that's kind of what it has to be instilled to you for the long game. There's no way you're going to put 10 years into something if you don't like to train. If you're just doing it to be prestigious, or you think it looks cool, you're gonna burn out quickly. Because and then doing one prep, I say I've helped quite a few people for shows, but I would say 60% of them have made it to the finish line, and the other 40% fizzled out once they realize how hard it actually is. So yeah, just be prepared. Love training, love eating. If you don't like those two, no offense, but competing is not for you.
Very well put, man. I appreciate you touched on that. Now you've brought up Dusty Hanshaw a couple times, and it sounds like when you got connected with him, that was kind of like a pivotal and transitional point in your bodybuilding career. And I always appreciate, Dusty and the content that he puts out, just because he's one of those old school hardcore guys, right? Kind of like no nonsense. And that's kind of what I am attracted to in terms of human beings, in terms of training and bodybuilding. But just touch on Dusty. You kind of already talked about, pursuing or chasing after a pro physique and not the pro card, kind of that mentality. But how did that relationship with Dusty come about? And then what did he kind of do for you just as a man and as a bodybuilder?
So Dusty was great. Oh, sorry, my dog's barking.
Oh, you're good.
He was great because so at the 2016 USA's, I didn't look good. I knew I didn't look good. But it was actually a friend of his, Jacob Wilson. I don't know if they saw something or they just knew like of me, or like, that I put a lot into it. Whatever the case may be, between those two, they pretty much were like, we'll take care of you. Like, here's what we need to do. I think they saw something, like I said, because I didn't look good. So it wasn't like they saw a good physique up there. But I think they saw more of the mentality, because after that, me and Dusty started working together. I guess not to stray too far from that, but a side note, me and Dusty started working in 2016 after the USA's together. And then I actually got diagnosed with testicular cancer literally a couple months from there. So we had a rough start. I got all that taken care of. I'm clear and free. But that's how it started. So like, we by no means were off to the races right away. I had a good few, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months of just my body getting destroyed and then trying to rebuild it back up. But so like I said, that was a side note. But that being said, Dusty kind of just instilled in me the hard work process. I mean, like I was already there, but like he really just kind of solidified, like, you can't miss a meal. And his mantra was always just like one perfect day at a time. We string those perfect days together and then we get results. So until we can do that, results will not happen. So it's those little things that you learn from people that get you in the right mindset of what you need to do. So that's what I did. Every day, okay, didn't miss any meals. I checked all the boxes. I trained as hard as I could, whatever. And then how many days can I do this in a row before, because you are going to have some slight setbacks, but it's to just, okay, I messed up. Let's get going right back on it. That's what Dusty really instilled into me. That, and then he definitely showed me some different stuff with training. I trained like Jay Cutler. When I say that, some people will get that, some people won't. But, he did like 12 reps, 4 sets, build up the weight, lots of volume. Dusty showed me the other side. He showed me the HIIT training. He showed me the DC, which now I thoroughly enjoy. I still do a variation of that. I'm doing more HIIT style training with minimal warm-ups, with top sets. I think that has a lot to be said with building a bigger, denser physique. People respond differently to other things. So between the training and between the mindset, Dusty's been an excellent mentor. I mean, I sent check-ins to him every 3 to 5 days for 5 years. So we definitely have a history.
Love that, man. Now, you just touched on training a little bit. That's something that I wanted to bring up with you, Cole. And I'm sure some of the listeners are kind of interested, because there's so many different training philosophies and, different athletes out there promoting kind of their way or a coach's way. But what is kind of like where you're at currently, kind of like what is that training philosophy? And I'm sure now that you're connected with Matt, because just through social media, I see kind of how he seems to train his athletes, like Nick Walker and things like that. But kind of where are you at currently? And then as you have game planned with Matt Jansen, is he kind of encouraging you just to continue to train that way, or is he going to be tweaking some of that in the future, if not already?
So I did 1 year strict DC, push-pull legs with Dusty. And then, he doesn't even really train that way right now, but I wanted to try it. I've never done it. I did it for a full year. Like I said, when you want to try something, you got to do it. You can't just like, I'm going to try it for a week and whatever. So I did that for a full year. But then I went back to more of the pro split, chest, biceps, back on its own, legs on its own. But now incorporating my compound movements more like a HIIT style of training where the warm-ups are just that. So I'm doing like, 10 reps maybe with a really light weight, and then maybe doing 3 or 4 reps on the heavier weights, just feeling it out, trying not to cause any fatigue whatsoever, and then saving it all for just a nasty top set. And then maybe a back off, maybe a rest pause, maybe just the top set. That's where the actual overall program comes into play, because you can't do a rest pause in every single one. You can't do a back off in every single one. You have to be able to manage fatigue, which the longer I've trained, that's something between Dusty, between chatting with Matt, and just my overall, all the stuff I've done over the last 15 years of training is I was pretty bad at managing fatigue. I would do everything in 1 week. I would squat, I would deadlift, I would do heavy RDLs. To be honest, you think I would have gotten smarter quicker after a couple injuries, but I'm getting really good at that now, and Matt's huge on that, managing the fatigue. So me and Braden Bentley, he's an IFBB Pro Classic Physique. He's the owns the den with me, and then he wrote out the training program via. He worked with John Jewett, he worked with Matt, I worked with Dusty. So we kind of brainstormed a program, the two of us, based off of, because then it's our equipment at the gym. We want to have some input on how we train. We both have the same leg and body parts, so it works out really well. So we train together every single day together. It's our backs, our entire back sides. We just need to bring them up. But so then we sent that over because he's also working with Matt. So that's another reason why it just seemed that I should stay with Matt, because my training partner is working with him. If I'm working with him, then we can all work synergistically together, and have a really good off season. So we sent over, based off of some stuff I've done with Dusty, some stuff we did with John Jewett, some stuff we did with Matt, sent that over to Matt, had him look it over. He approved of the program, because we also, trying to keep him in the loop. But yet again, it's a lot of what I just said. It's just the warm-ups. We're throwing in a rest pause. We're throwing in some back off sets. We're not doing a lot of volume in a given workout. There's probably 5 to 6 actual hard working sets. But I feel like that's the best way to manage fatigue. When I was younger, I did a ton of volume. I recovered just fine. I don't know how I ever did that. I don't know if I just wasn't training hard enough actually on my working sets, which actually I think that's what it is. But like, if I do an all-out top set, man, sometimes I do one set and I'm like, man, I could really go home. That was really tough. And when I write programs for people, I try to show them this side as well, because not a lot of people have trained like this. But I typically add more volume in, and a lot of coaches will, because most people won't be able to do a working set like we do. So you have to kind of fill that void with some volume. So anyone who's listening who has never done this style before, I'd recommend doing a top set and a back off on pretty much everything to start off. That way you can get a little bit more volume in, and then really start working and digging into those top sets. Soon as you're able to do a top set to absolute brutal failure, this is Dusty's way of saying it, but if someone put a gun to your head and said, do one more rep, or I'm gonna pull the trigger should be pulled. That's how far you gotta take the set. He said that to me from day one when I started DC, because he told me if I can't do that, DC is not gonna work. So that's kind of the same thing for this. If you're only doing one top set, it has to be all out.
Perfect, man. Good stuff. All right. So we're gonna, I want to be respectful of your time here. We're gonna kind of head towards the finish line, but I do want to touch on a few more things here, and then we'll wrap it up. Now, we kind of already talked about like your breakfast and stuff like that, but what is kind of like, do you have like a specific nutrition philosophy, or and obviously I know with different coaches it might look a little bit differently, but I think you've been in the game long enough, you probably know what foods sit well or best with your digestion and things like that. What does kind of like the nutrition look like just overall? Obviously, we understand that during prep, things are going to be different than off season. And you mentioned you're kind of coming off of, a competition. So you're probably working your way back up in terms of increasing macros, but generally speaking, what does that nutrition look like for you, Cole?
Not a whole lot changes from off season to on season. So Dusty learned from Chris Aceto. So if you guys know anything about Chris Aceto, so I was with Dusty, it was pretty much no added fats. You're eating your meat sources. So there's some red meat, some whole eggs. And then once you kind of topped out on clean food, he'd throw in a bunch of junk food, Pop-Tarts, muffins, stuff like that, just to get the calories down to grow size. So I still kind of like subscribe to that somewhat, depending on the person's physique. I personally get a little fat. So I think I need to work on staying leaner in the off season. I mean, I competed at 232. If you wanted, I could be 300 pounds in a couple months. I'm not saying it's going to look pretty, but I have the appetite to do that. But now, as soon as I switched to Matt, he instantly upped my fats via mac oil, nut butters. And to be honest, it made me a little nervous because I've never done that before. I've been doing more of the Chris Aceto style from Dusty for a long time, which I always responded well to, I thought. We had the fats in, to be honest. I don't know if it's just because, you do something for so long or whatever, but it worked. I mean, no offense. You saw how I looked on stage because we had the fats in right away, 6 days out from the show, which like I said, I was nervous. We're 6 days out from the Chris Cormier, and he sends back the diet. All of a sudden there's mac oil and some of this other stuff in there. I'm like, oh, he increased my fats. Oh, he increased my carbs. I'm like, holy crap. All right. But like, I also, if I am going to hire a coach, I'm going to do everything he says, because at least if it didn't work, I can't blame myself. I can blame him, but I can't blame myself. So I followed the plan 100%, and I couldn't believe how well I responded. Now going to the off season, like I said, there's a lot more fats in there than normal, but I subscribe to the same foods. It's still, because he didn't really change the foods. Matt doesn't like egg whites, so that was one of the only things that we took out, which I get it. A lot of people have digestive issues with egg whites, so he switched the meal to steak and whole eggs, which who doesn't like steak and eggs? So I'm not going to complain about that. And then we really stick to just rice-based stuff. Cream of rice, white jasmine rice, and then the meats don't really matter. Lean meat's a lean meat. A fattier meat's a fattier meat for the most part. We don't get too concerned on that, but be consistent. Don't be like buying something different every day. But yeah, pretty simplistic diet. You want to work with foods that digest well. Like for me, you throw a sweet potato into there and I'm in trouble. My stomach is all jacked up. So you'll just know which foods will work for you. For me, I can't do really complex carbohydrates. I do much better with some simplistic, like white rice, cream of rice. To be honest, that's all my carbs right now. I don't have anything else for carbs in there. Lots of vegetables though. I'm doing tons of green beans, tons of spinach, where I know a lot of bodybuilders don't do that. So I'm throwing that in there. Eat your vegetables or get a greens drink, something. I do both. I think if your digestion is optimized, you're going to feel a lot better. You can eat more, and then you're going to utilize the nutrients better as well. So there's a lot to be said for that. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's pretty, I guess also to throw in there, I follow a meal plan, not macros. So I literally eat, like it says on my meal plan, 225 grams of steak, 2 whole eggs, 80 grams cream of rice. And then it goes to meal 2. I won't go through all of them, but that's how they all are. So there's no guessing. Eat exactly what's on there. I know what those are made up of. So like I could get the macro breakdown if I really wanted to, or like, just look at the bag of cream of rice, it says 80 grams. You can see how many carbs you're eating right there. But I like following a meal plan. Typically when I write stuff for clients, I like them to follow a meal plan. But I'll like maybe put in like lean meat and then give a list of lean meats. Cause like between fish, chicken, and 99 1-ground turkey, is there really going to be a massive difference? So especially in off season or for a lifestyle client, like don't get too caught up in that. You can't swap a steak out for a chicken breast. So like, let's be real.
Awesome, man. All right. So just before we wrap things up, obviously I introduced you as the 2021 NPC Junior Nationals overall bodybuilding champion. That's kind of how I even came across you on social media. Is I follow a lot of bodybuilders and started seeing pictures, and just awesome, man. You looked awesome, but I just want you to talk about that a little bit. I mean, it had to have been kind of maybe like a surreal moment for you, just the way you looked. I know there with the Dusty and Matt transition, I'm sure there was probably a little anxiety and some struggle within all of that, but when you stepped on stage, you looked awesome, man. You won. And I think you could probably say this is the truth, that it's going to catapult you forward in terms of your bodybuilding career. But just that day in general, man, like, how did it feel? What was it like? Was it really surreal? Just share with myself and the listeners what that junior nationals overall just experience was like.
I think it meant a lot. Like, it meant a lot to me for a few different reasons. For one, my family was there. They came all the way out to Tennessee with me. My training partner came all the way out to Tennessee with me. He pretty much waited on me hand and foot. Revive and Raw were the title sponsors, which Matt owns those companies. So Matt was actually out there as well. So like, I had the team there. And then when we started sending pictures and doing posing, and you're in the hotel, like, I definitely had moments of like, God, like, I hope I look good, but like, I'm just gonna follow the plan. I don't even know what I'm gonna look like. I have a hard time getting my glutes in. When I woke up like the next morning after we'd been there and I saw my glutes were etched out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna at least be gnarly on stage. So I had a little bit of confidence. Like, I knew I was gonna be in shape, but like, this is a big show. This is not a state level show. I've done USAs a few times. I've never placed. So my expectations of going into the show are pretty much nothing. But I'm backstage, I'm at check-ins, I'm getting tanned in. When I did the Cormier Classic 6 weeks earlier, people were talking about that backstage. People were talking about how I looked there. People were talking about the conditioning. So like, and I'm not one to, like I said, get cocky or arrogant. I was like, yeah, we'll see how we do here. I'm definitely better. I knew I was better than I was there. So if they thought that was great, like, okay, this is going to be pretty cool. And then you really don't know how you're going to look till you step on stage. And at prejudging, they moved me to the middle. I got in there with it. I was in the first call out. That's never happened to me at a national show before. I'm usually second call out, bummed already, ready to get a burger and fries and say F this. And I stepped off stage and like, everyone's like, I'm getting, my phone's blowing up. Everything's going crazy. Matt literally walks over to me and is like, don't look at your phone. Don't stress out. And he's pretty much like, you got it. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know about that. Let's just take this, I'll go back to the room. I'll settle down, whatever. And I remember, so I am sponsored by Labrado Nutrition. Hunter sent me a text that I did open. So sorry, Matt, but I did open that one. And it had a screenshot of me from the live stream hitting the most muscular. And it was next to the other super heavy, which I think it was Zach. Great bodybuilder. He has great flow. He's going to do awesome things. But I was like, who is that? I'm like, that's me. Holy shit. That's me. I couldn't believe it. That obviously the most muscular you shared today. That's kind of the one I was talking about. I was blown away. It was the first time I've ever seen a picture on stage. And I am so proud of what I brought. I've never had that feeling before, ever. So that's when I started, like, right then and there, I kind of had that epiphany. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe I'm not a shitty, mediocre bodybuilder. Maybe I can, compete with, some of the best. I'm not talking Olympia or anything. I'm just talking best amateurs. So I think I'm getting too far ahead of myself here. But like, I could actually get on USAs. I could get on the North American stage, and like, I could give people a run for their money at this point. It's kind of what's going through my head. I'm like, holy crap. Going forward to the night show, my good friend Brett Wilkins was also guest posing, and he had won the junior nationals for his pro card classic physique. So it was kind of cool because I won the overall. He was backstage. He had won the classic overall before. Granted, I didn't get a pro card. He did. Whatever, semantics. That's going down the road. But then just, and then Matt was backstage with us. Sean Clarita was back there. He's a super nice guy. So it was just a really good vibe, and the show was put on excellently. I don't know if people seen it, but like, they had Dan Green do the stage, and it was like an Olympia production stage. So all that put together, man, to be honest, like, I'm never going to forget that day. Regardless, I know it wasn't a pro win. I know it wasn't a pro card, but like, that show meant to me, more than any other show at this point, mainly due to the fact that was the first time I ever saw my physique and thought I could be more than just a state level bodybuilder.
Love it, man. Yeah. And, you know, just from me to you, congrats, dude. Cause that's it's just exciting to see people that put in the discipline, they put in the work and they have like a breakthrough moment, or there's a victory, whether it's an actual win or just a personal victory, man. Cause like I tell people all the time, hard work always pays off, and it's not easy. So then when you have a breakthrough or a victory in life, just makes it so much more worth it, right?
It's very, very rewarding.
Before I kind of wrap things up, in terms of just kind of giving you the final words, Cole, I want to give you've talked about your wife, you've talked about your kids, but anytime I have a guest that's married or has a significant other and has a family, I always want to give them the opportunity to talk about that, because it's a big part of you know, life, right? So kind of however you want to take it, whatever you want to talk about, just touch on, you know, your wife. What does she mean to you in terms of just being that teammate for you? And then just talk about what it means to you to be a dad, to have your kids, and to be able to lead that life, to be the example for them.
You know, like I said, me and her have been together a long time. So she's seen me skinny, she's seen me fat, she's seen me a bodybuilder. And so I know, like, you know, like she's not with me for any one reason. She's truly with me for me. So we have a great relationship, just outside of me competing. Obviously, when prep comes around, she's great. She'll help me out. But to be honest, like, I also don't like, hey, you have to cook me food. Like, I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. I try to be as self-sufficient as possible during prep, because I know she has 3 kids she's chasing around. And I'm not even going to pretend that I do more for the kids than she does, because she definitely is with the kids more often than not. Her job is very flexible. So, but my wife, Megan, is phenomenal. She to be honest, I don't know how people can prep without having someone there with them, because I've never done it. But if I was by myself, I could see myself being way more lazy. But like, she's there in the kitchen, like, oh shit, like I better measure all this stuff. I don't want her to call me out on my shit. But then also she's been doing this long enough with me where I'll pose and she'll be like, your glutes are still soggy. Like, you're not anywhere near where you need to be. And like, I need that. I don't need anyone praising me. I need people telling me I suck, that I need to keep pushing, that we're not there. That's what I need. And she knows that, and she provides everything. Just, you know, it's perfect. But this was also the first prep that she either wasn't pregnant or we didn't have like a toddler as of recent, at least. So that was nice. But Hayden's 7, Landon is 5, and Emmy is 2. They're all completely different kids with a completely different, you know, they got their quirks and everything. Emmy's a little daddy's girl. She definitely can easily make me do anything for her. So it's good and bad. But the older they get, they're starting to do sports. My 2 boys are infatuated with Dragon Ball Z and being stronger and bigger. So it's cool to see. So they love this. They love that I compete. So it all kind of goes hand in hand. But yeah, I mean, I was never the person growing up saying, oh, I want to have a bunch of kids and a family, and, you know, but if you meet the right person and everything, because I'm definitely more of a homebody, introvert. So they kind of definitely brought me out of my shell. Like I said, like tomorrow we're going to go out camping with them. They're gonna, you know, whether it's canoeing or whatever they want to do, go out, have fun with the kids. But yeah, they're definitely, it's one of those things. I don't want to equate it to this, but this is how I tell my wife sometimes. It's like, oh, you didn't really know you like dogs and you got a dog. Like, you know, it's kind of how it was with the kids. Like, all right, I don't, you know, I'm not really a kid person, but she had the first kid, and, you know, we're doing this whole thing. I'm trying to figure this out. And, you know, like, as soon as you have a kid, it's like, holy crap, like, I'm responsible for that. You got to provide for that. You got to teach them how to do stuff. So I'm very hands-on. We yeah, I mean, we do everything as a family together. So we brought Hayden out to Tennessee for the junior nationals. I just can't bring all three of them. That would have been crazy, but try to involve them as much as possible.
Love it, man. So before I do the outro here, Cole, I just kind of want to give you an opportunity. If you have kind of like any final words or anything you kind of want to leave with the listeners, please do that. And then please feel free, just, the social medias, the sponsors, everything, or anything that you want to share with the listeners in terms of people that support you, your team, your gym, again, anything like that. Go ahead and share that. So any final words, and then where people can find you and connect with you.
I just want to thank you, man, for having me on here. I don't know, like I said, like this is still new to me as far as like just people actually want to hear what I have to say. Do people care about anything? So but if anyone listens to this, I appreciate it. Otherwise, going into like the gym and everything else, I just really want to thank everyone at the gym, because we are a family. Everyone at the den, they pushed me throughout this whole prep. Having that atmosphere is next to none. So I mean, for any kids growing up, find that gym, find that atmosphere. It definitely will help you. Want to thank everyone at my work, the fitness shop as well. I mean, to be honest, without that job, I don't know if I could prep like I did. So having all their support for me, and then my sponsors, I signed with Labrada Nutrition not too long ago with the new Labrada Pro Series. They've been excellent. They've been helping me out. And to be honest, Hunter's pretty hands-on, man. He was texting me throughout the whole prep, checking in on me. So it's really cool. Not just a sponsor. It already seems kind of like, a little family friendship thing. So, and then I'm now a Iron Rebel athlete. So Luke just brought me on as an actual athlete. So that's been cool. I've always loved their stuff. I followed along with that. Obviously, anything John Meadows is a part of is something good. So, and then I am with Revive as well. If you go to my Instagram, it's C and then my last name. So it's C Eastvold. All my links to all my sponsors are there. And then my friend, who actually I was referring to before, Matt, who did all the bodybuilding with me, started up his own CBD company, Honey Gold Botanicals. So I'm with them as well. Just seemed right. And so I'm wishing him the best of luck. We're trying to help him get off the ground. So, but I have all that information on my Instagram. So if I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but my family obviously is the most important part. So thank you to them.
Cool. I really appreciate it, Cole, again, for coming on. I know it's the 4th of July weekend, got some family stuff coming up, but I greatly appreciate you coming on, and I'm taking some time out of your schedule to share your story and to just kind of talk all things bodybuilding, man. So thank you very much.
Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
You're good, man. It's great when I can just ask a question and then my guest just kind of takes it and runs with it. It's just enjoyable, man. Cause it's like, you know what, like that's the reason why I bring people onto the podcast, is for people to share their story. Right. So it's like, hey,
right,
I asked a question, kind of guide it here and there. And if a guest takes it and runs with it, then it's awesome, man. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm not used to this yet. So this is the first podcast I've ever done that's truly about me. So
cool.
Even getting on here, I'm like, should I ask him some questions? I should see how he's doing. I'm like, I don't really like it when it's all about me.
Yeah, no, it's kind of it's a weird thing, especially in the beginning. I started the podcast. It's 3 years actually this month. And so I've had an opportunity to be on people's podcasts, but I didn't start the podcast to do that. So it is kind of weird, like, because I'm used to asking the questions, and I do it because I want to give people an opportunity to share their story. Because when we share our stories, other people can listen, and they're really positively impacted. Just like us going back to, looking at the magazines and reading the nutrition of the pro bodybuilders and their workouts, like that impacted us. Right. And so that's kind of my goal with the podcast is people coming on to share their story. So
I listen to a ton of podcasts. So I just try to put myself in my own shoes, where if there was a bodybuilder or someone who I was slightly interested in, I love hearing this stuff. So that's also why I started doing some YouTube content, day in the life stuff, and been more active on social media, because throughout prep, I'm even watching I'm watching Chris Bumstead's day in the life videos. I'm watching, Ian stuff. I was watching, you name it. There's a bodybuilder, the YouTube channel. I'm probably watching it. So
Nick Walker, right?
yeah, Nick, I'm watching Nick's channel, but even the Raw channel, the Revive channel. There's so much stuff out there nowadays. Obviously, the Think Big bodybuilding, all their content they're putting out. So I always just put myself in my own shoes, and I enjoy that. So when you message me about this, I'm like, well, who knows? Maybe someone will have an easier day of cardio because of me. So
for sure, man. Absolutely. So 127 Fit podcast listeners, once again, thank you so much for your listening ears. They're always greatly appreciated. If you'd like to find out more about the guests that I'm bringing onto the podcast or myself personally, you can find all of that information on Instagram at 127fit. Facebook is Quentin Vars. And if you guys would do me a huge favor and please leave a 5-star written review, especially within the iTunes Apple Podcast app, that would be cool because that's how the podcast is found by more people. More people listen and more people are positively impacted. One other favor I'd ask of you guys is you found great value in Cole's episode or another episode of the 127 Fit podcast. Just take this episode or another episode of the podcast and share it on your social media story platforms. Again, that's how more people can find the podcast. More people listen, more people are positively impacted. If you think you'd be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance you think would be a great guest or guest for the 127 Fit podcast, then please just give this email out or send me an email. The email is 127fit@gmail.com. And then per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time, until next time, I'll catch you guys later.